2020 was so good, I mean, apparently they had to make a sequel. Welcome back to another video, and back to another amazing year. Today we're running it back to another one rollout for every map video. I did one of these going into 2021, so if you haven't seen those rollouts, I'd recommend checking that video out after this one too, because all of the rollouts in this video are going to be new ones. I'm going to be going through these alphabetically, starting with Blizzard World. On this map, there is a very holy grail of terrain that you must utilize, and it's this boulder. I use this rock to engage the first point almost every single time, and you can use it to get to all of the key high grounds and backlines that the enemies play from. Some of the iterations of this rollout may require some support from your team, like a Rhine shield when you're setting up. Of the three Busan maps, Downtown is probably the least abundant when it comes to rollouts, so use the slanted surfaces of these Daihatsu microvans to get an easy slam onto the high grounds. Onto Busan Meka base, I love utilizing the slanted faces of the supporting beams that surround the point for an absolutely magnolious diagonal punch onto the high grounds or backlines. And the last of the three, Sanctuary. You can diagonal punch off of this surface to land onto this rather unexpected stall spot to engage onto the enemies from. Dorado is a map I despise, but it does make for some pretty amazing rollouts. Take this one on the outskirts of Second Point. You can use a combination of the gaps in between this tree, along with the angle of which they protrude from the ground, for a muy delicioso void spot diagonal punch hybrid rollout thing. Moving on to a much better map, Eichenwalde. Now on this map, there are many different ways to engage onto the backline, most of which using this roof. But take this method into your next game to be extra inspirational. Come around to the side of this car and angle yourself around about 40 degrees inwards from the tangent, and release your punch against the side windows of the car, and it'll send you up with some serious height. I only recently found this rollout on Hanamura, and I thought it was really different, so I just had to include it. To engage onto the far back high ground, simply line your punch up with this tree, and that's it. You don't have to jump or fall off the edge or anything fancy, and it's really easy to replicate. Heading over to Cuba, engaging on this final point can sometimes be a disaster if you just push mid. So I present to you a simple solution. Go out the right door of spawn and take the high ground instead, you numpty. Now you can use any one of these penises to diag over the roof and engage the enemies. You can even release your punch earlier and perform it as an arc slam instead, but do consider the risk of doing so. This rollout is actually similar to the one on Havana, so you want to engage onto the far back high ground after capping the first point. If you take the lift and use the bridge, it is almost certain that you will receive a widow shot, which will result in a major skull fracture, an irreparable scalp opening, severe brain injury and a stage 4 concussion, or possibly a stage 3 concussion if the widow shot wasn't fully charged. Instead, you can diagonal punch off of this spotlight by angling yourself again around about 40 degrees inwards from the tangent of this wall and releasing your punch at the apex of your jump. Apex meaning the highest point. A cute little coordinated rollout you can use is this diagonal punch on Horizon Lunar Colony, because that's why people are watching this video. Either coordinate with your team to take the right stairs, or to dive the right side high ground depending on what composition you're running. And upon their engagement on the enemy, diagonal punch off of this wall for an unexpected engagement onto the high ground. Next, onto the trio of Ilios maps. On Lighthouse, you can uppercut onto this doorway shade, then punch yourself against this rooftop. By landing in the center of it with no sideways momentum, you're able to use this roof, in fact any of these rooftops, as a balanced spot to roll out from. On Ilios Ruins, using any of this stone skirting on either side can grant you some serious height and leaves you pretty open for many different rollout opportunities. So get creative. And on Ilios Well, if you come around to the side of the map and onto the back high ground, you're actually able to diag off of this blue fencing here to land either in the backlines of either side, the back high grounds, or even using it to catch people in the widow spot cheesing. Heading down to Junkertown, instead of taking the main entrance on attack, take the side entrance instead. Make your way around to the side parts of the map, then uppercut onto this roof. Now you can use this part of the map as your rollout hub if you wish. Engaging the high ground, getting a pick, then disengaging back to this hub. Or you can be inspirational and tackle the far high grounds with it. The choice is yours, mate. On the one rollout per map video last year, there was a diag punch you could do to engage from this rooftop, and it was really good, but inconsistent and wordy and hard to read grammarly. I have since then discovered a much easier alternative. Take a look at this, right? Uppercut onto this high ground, then use the slanted edges to get a diagonal slide punch. How about that, huh? Lijiang Control Center sucks balls when it comes to rollouts, but you can use this neat little trick. As they're heading round to the point, use these information boards to catch the backline off guard with a sly little slide punch. This rollout is more for stylish purposes rather than practical, so keep that in mind. You can come around to the side of the map and use this curved roof edge as a stall spot. You have to hold forward whilst you're in it though, and then from here, use the roof as a diagonal punch rollout spot. And on Lijiang Night Market, a simplistic yet somehow widely unknown about rollout you can use is this one to take you right around to the point. Break the railings at the edge of your spawn, and start your rollout from around about the bottom of the stairs. Turn punch around the building, then use your other abilities to reach the point edge. You are actually able to pull this one off with just 2 abilities. However, it becomes all the more difficult to pull off consistently. On to the next set of 3, starting with Nepal Sanctum. You can use this set of drawers, which I believe to be rosewood, or perhaps even teak. Let me know down in the comments what kind of wood. You're able to get an angled diagonal punch off of these drawers on either side as an unexpected way to engage the backline. Probably my favourite rollout on this entire list has got to be this one on Nepal Shrine. It involves mainly these 4 pillars, but also the pillar on the point works with it as well. It's my favourite because I have no idea why it happens. You can perform this rollout by lining up next to one of these pillars with your crosshair aiming just beside the pillar itself. Then you jump and release your punch, and it will send you into goddamn orbit. You can combo this into some pretty amazing rollouts over the rooftops. And on Nepal Village, instead of engaging through the room on the high ground, why not go over the entire roof instead? Use the slanted rock surfaces to diagonal slide punch over the whole building. Going to Doomfist's home turf, many people don't know this, but you can actually get some pretty crazy air by diagonal slide punching off of the front of any of the coaches. Enough air, in fact, to combo onto the far back high ground. Would you believe it? And now for the other African map, the Oasis set of 3. On City Centre, there's a fun little stall spot you can utilise if you come around to the bounce pad high ground. And use either one of these erections, dependent on which side you're going to stall on. For the right side, diagonal punch off of the right chode, then uppercut to plonk yourself right into the cubby of these roofs. From here you can then slam or diagonal punch for a... On Oasis Gardens, there's a rather complicated setup for a not so complicated rollout. Allow me to explain. So start by getting to this high ground, and now you want to bounce off of this tree into an uppercut to land in an invisible stall spot that lies around half the distance from the center to the edge of this roof. If you can understand that part, you can use this spot to easily dive over the point to the backline or even the high ground if you wish. And the final Oasis rollout on University is just simply to utilize any one of these information signs to get a diagonal slide punch off of, for either a backline or high ground engagement. Heading over to the second most popular map, on Paris, use this bench rest to diag off of it for a cheeky slam over the roof rollout. On Italia, bounce against this little sunshade and uppercut onto this roof. This roof is really interesting actually, as it's one of the few surfaces in-game where you can actually stall yourself on it infinitely, using your punch and uppercut. So take your time, love, right? When you're ready, we can go. Diag on this other roof segment into a turn punch for an absolutely colossal slam from the heavens above. On Route 66, you can use the rock next to El Cactus for a schnasty diag roll up to the far back high ground. Now on the other African map, getting familiar with these 4 tips will really open you up to a variety of different rollouts, both offensive and defensive, both kind and unkind, both ballsy and suave. The penultimate map, Volskaya Industries, is open to a vast arsenal of rollouts. However, not too many good engagement rollouts. So take this one, if you will, for a point A offense. Take the high ground from spawn and diagonal punch off of the corner where these two sides meet. Then turn that diagonal punch into a turn punch to make it over the roof for an easy engagement. And finally, this god-awful map. It's a shame, I really dislike this map, but this rollout is amazing to pull off in-game. So you'll be using this part of the ship to land on this high ground in a very unexpected way, okay? Pay close attention. So, you will use this part of the ship to punch into at an angle so that you get a downwards diagonal slide punch off of it, which will then angle appropriately to combo into a bounce off of this forklift truck, to then combo into a slam uppercut combo. How goddamn cool is that? I'd advise you go into a custom game and practice this one just a little bit. And unfortunately, that is going to do it for the rollouts. Maybe I'll get around to doing a similar video but for the deathmatch maps. Or is that a stupid idea? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you very much all for watching. I've been Clowner, and you've been busy.